Alright, before we get into this video, I'm going to have to give you some context. A little while ago, I did a video exploring the entire Miraculous Ladybug series, pretty much, and discussing some of the issues I have with it, along with some hypothetical solutions that worked in my mind. I usually go in and redesign the things I don't like with the existing characters. However, I struggled with that video since the ideas I had for a new concept were so vastly different from the core that I felt there was no point in redesign if it was pretty much going to be a completely new thing, especially when I wanted to explore more adult themes and these characters are so freaking young. So instead of taking these existing characters and doing something different, I decided to start from the ground up and create a similar-ish concept to Miraculous with my own characters and own concepts. And after I did this, I became extremely obsessed with Winifred and Fox to the point that they are pretty much all I draw. Winnie has captured my heart in a way I haven't felt since I was a wee middle schooler. She is so fun to draw. I can't get enough of her little buck teeth. I can't stop thinking about them. However, I have only designed 2 characters for this universe, and that's not enough for my daydreaming, so I decided I need to make an update video. I need to flesh out the story more. I need to feed this beast.
Ew, Babe's Nutsack only donated $10,000.
So, hello, if you don't know already, my name is Emma, and today we are going to be revisiting this concept I've created, re-explaining some things from the last video, and adding some new characters to this lineup. But before we press play, I would like to present you with today's sponsor, Opera GX. Most browsers are pretty boring. Functional, sure, but where's the flair? Where's the customization? Those questions are answered with Opera GX and their unique way of personalizing your browser. With mods, you can match your workspace to your own personal style, mix and matching accordingly. Just head over to the GX store to check out what's available, or create your own if what you're looking for isn't there yet. You can add tab sound effects, keyboard sound effects, and even background music to really set the vibe. Worried about losing your previous bookmarks when you switch over? Worry not with the quick import tool, which allows you to import all your settings from your previous browser easily. I'm not losing my fanfictions, no siree. Opera GX approached me with a wonderful opportunity to showcase their features by creating my own custom wallpaper, then providing sound effects and music to go with. I knew I had to make something inspired by Fruity Guerrero and low poly-ish graphics. I think what I came up with suits my vision pretty well. And I love this look and feeling, and I know a lot of you guys do as well, so if you're interested in my mod, you can actually download it off the GX store today. I'm so excited for all of you to see it and experience it. I think it's so cool, and I would really appreciate if you gave your support. You can find the link to the mod in the description below, as well as a link to download Opera GX for yourself. Thank you, Opera, and let's try to transition back to what I was talking about. After this point, I will also try my best to distance from Miraculous as much as possible. This was born from Miraculous, but my goal is to make Miraculous an estranged relative. Winnie and Fox, they're going no contact. If you feel confused or lost, don't worry. Everything will be thoroughly explained to you, or everything I want to share right now will be explained, wink. So let me stop rambling in this intro and let me start rambling in the bulk of this video. Come on, let's go. I'm going to be re-explaining my ideas and this character. Some things have changed from my original video, so I guess it's not all a loss. This character's name is Winifred White, and she is a normal girl with a normal life. Sorry. Winifred is, to put it nicely, a loser in the best way possible. I really want this character to be weird, but not in a nice, quirky Disney way, in a she makes most people uncomfortable way. She's not trying to make people uncomfortable, she's just kind of off-putting. Who can relate? She tends to over-explain herself, talk way too much, and she has a lot of niche special interests that most people are a little question mark about. Winifred is definitely an extrovert, though she isolates herself most of the time because she feels she'd rather be by herself than face the constant embarrassment she feels about just interacting with others. This lack of self-confidence and insecurity stems from when she was in school, mostly in high school. She had a hard time fitting in and didn't really have any friends. Well, any friends she did have were actually just using her or making fun of her. And because she tried so hard to connect with others, a lot of people just saw her as desperate and unappealing. She wasn't exactly a looker in high school. She was going through that awkward phase, and that really deterred people also. But when she was in high school, she was mysteriously delivered a book titled Little Red Riding Hood. She thought this was some kind of weird prank from the other kids in school since they like to relentlessly torture her. She thought maybe it was because of her lack of parents and that she lived with her grandma, but upon opening the book, she found a talking companion that at the time really scared her, of course. The companion explained that this book will turn her into her highest form of self to protect others from evil and impending doom. Yes, these fairy tale books turned people into superheroes. I am obsessed with this concept still. I imagine the little book companion is animated on the page. They're not 3D, they can't come out of the book, but they are fully in control of the book's movement. They can flip the pages as they will. The book also keeps a record of all the different heroes that have held onto it, as well as an active record of whoever is currently using the book, so it will be in the format of a traditional fairy tale. I believe when Winifred gets the book, she is around 17, and this changes her life completely. When a person becomes a superhero with these books, they feel the best they've ever felt, and it's basically wish fulfillment, as you will form into everything you want yourself to be. So Winifred is to herself ugly, unpopular, unlikable, but as Scarlet Shade, her superhero form, she is on top of the world, beautiful, enticing, and mysterious. Scarlet Shade is very smart and cunning. She always knows what to do and is confident in her decisions. Winifred definitely bleeds out. It's not like she's a completely different person, though it feels different when you are a superhero. I didn't have a very good idea about what everyone's powers would be, but I really nailed it down for this, so I'm excited to share my thoughts. I had a lot of inspiration from The Incredibles, specifically The Incredibles tapes on the superheroes that died to syndrome in the first movie. This was a special feature on one of the DVDs, I believe, and it's a really cool down-to-earth addition to that universe. The Incredibles is a great movie, but learning about the older superheroes really made me love it more. It's just a cool addition that really makes the world feel way more real. And I loved how real these characters felt, so I wanted to keep something like that in mind for my concept. It's definitely magical, but in a I'm broke, I need money, let me make public appearances way. Scarlet Shade is obviously based on the Little Red Riding Hood, and in designing these characters, I realized it's kind of difficult to translate a whole book into a single concept, as you're not necessarily basing the character on the main character of every book, especially when there might be multiple main characters. So I came up with a little bit of a scale to make it a little more thought out as to how this works. Most fairy tales want to teach a lesson, and there's usually an antagonist and a protagonist. So your visuals as a superhero will depend on what your intentions are and your personality as a civilian. So if you have more sinister intentions with your powers, you will resemble the antagonist more than the protagonist and vice versa, though it can blend together, and it usually does. Scarlet definitely resembles Little Red Riding Hood, but you'll notice that there is a lot of wolf traits going on there because Winifred is not the best. She is a very flawed person, Once she becomes this other persona, it almost unlocks something in her that isn't necessarily great. All the attention and love from her admirers or classmates really starts to get to her, and she will do anything to keep that attention positive since she's barely had that feeling before. So she starts to get a bit of a big head about her and really pushes her other superhero peers away since she really just wants to be the one in the limelight. It's not something she's consciously doing necessarily, but it is something that she definitely has to work through in the story. She has a pretty bad jealousy problem. I'm sorry, I went on a crazy tangent. I just wanted to explain that because I really like that idea. I will explain her powers now. Scarlet Shade is a pretty powerful hero. She has the ability to manipulate people's perception of things as well as manipulate their thoughts. So she'll be able to see in people's minds and use that information to deceive them with their close loved ones or their greatest desires, whatever it may be. She can also manipulate people to do whatever she says, similar to Kate from Gen V or Allison from the Umbrella Academy. I always found this kind of ability very interesting, so I wanted to explore that for myself. I mostly look to this kind of super ability because of the wolf's deception to Little Red Riding Hood in the original story. It might be a little bit of a reach. I think in order for people to do what she says, she has to do something similar to Kate in Gen V, where she must have contact with that person. She can also fight pretty well, being pretty defensive. She got those claws. Now, I'm not gonna have any villains designed in this video, though I am brewing some ideas, don't worry. I'm gonna make a second part, but I will give you my idea for the concept of villains. It's not that built out yet, so bear with me. I brainstormed some ideas of what would go with a book theme or general fictional themes, and what I came up with was tropes. I think it would be really cool for the villains to be specific tropes in books in media, so there could be a villain based on romance tropes like enemies to lovers and one bed love triangles, and they would all affect the heroes accordingly. And tropes can be literally anything, so I feel like there's endless possibilities with villain concepts, and it could also be pretty funny to poke fun at different book genres. The names of these one-off villains will be the Torn. I think it also plays off that book theme. I like that a lot. I'm pretty proud of that name. I'm bad at naming things, so yay. When the superheroes are in their teens, I think they're going to have their own mini big bad to face off and to ultimately defeat at the time. Scarlet Shade and her allies defeat this villain and are seen as teen superstar royalty, but the story doesn't actually take place in their glory days. It actually takes place, at least in the beginning, at their fall off. Winifred is directionless. She is committed her life to being a superhero in a world where superheroes are not needed anymore due to her own actions. She hasn't gone to college. She can't keep a job because she keeps getting fired after being late constantly from trying to get Scarlet Shade back on the map again. The public perception of the heroes has also gone down the toilet since they're less seen as cool and helpful and more so as a liability and an unnecessary expense for the city. Winifred used to get paid, but they recently suspended their contract since they're just not necessary anymore. All Winifred wants is another shot to prove herself and to be someone again. She refuses to move on to different things since this is what she has committed her life to, and she doesn't want to do anything else because there hasn't been anything else. She lives in her friend's attic, listening to police scanners and browsing forums about Scarlet Shade, soaking in any praise she can get. Wow. Being a superhero has stunted her life, but she refuses to let go. Thankfully, or not so thankfully for her, she will have another shot, though it will be the most difficult thing she will ever face. The strongest villain she's ever known, herself. I'm just kidding. There will be another big bad villain, but I don't want to talk about that right now. I will save that for another time, but it will help Winifred self-actualize in a big way. Sweet character development. Let's go! I love this girl. She's obsessed with weird romantic novels and lighthouses and dollhouse miniatures. She is so real. That was a big ramble, I know. Not all the characters will be like that, I promise. I just had to give you all the context, so let's move on, shall we?
If only I could have a guardian angel to tell me what to do. You know, like Debbie Reynolds had in Tammy. Well, I heard you working in here, and I was just wondering if you'd like a cup of coffee. To be perfectly honest, I did have a slightly ulterior motive. I was wondering if I might ask you a little favor.
Moving on to another repeat of a character, though this time I am going to be redrawing him, but only his Midas form. The first design I did wasn't bad, but I definitely wanted to improve some things and just make him more fun to draw, since I do have a good time drawing Scarlet. I just didn't like him as much, so I wanted to modify it a bit. What I wanted initially in his design was a tiny little waist. And I think I've achieved that now, so I'm happy. I'm just kidding. LOL. For visuals, I mostly look to things I find inspiring in relation to this concept. So very medieval, very princess, king, queens, knights. I recently replayed a game from my childhood named Disney Princess Enchanted Adventures, and that game actually inspired me a lot visually, though the gameplay was not as hard as I remember when I was little. King Midas and the Golden Touch is originally a Greek mythology that later was turned into more of a fairy tale. At least it's translated through fairy tales nowadays. I at first wanted to give him more Greek inspired clothing, but I opted to just go for a more medieval theme because I wanted these designs to be pretty sleek and uniform with each other. I might backtrack on this decision later, but for now that's what I went with. You also will see in this speed paint that I cheated and I cropped his face from the last design onto this one because I absolutely hated the face he had. And I loved his first face, so it is technically my own art. I can do what I want, right? I asked you guys for help on Instagram, which was nice since there was a lot of options to go through. I did end up going for the one-tone mask because I thought it looked much cleaner and more distinct, though the popular vote was obviously this one, and I get it. It is a cool design. Some people said he looked like a bandit, which I'm not that mad at since he's not exactly the most squeaky clean superhero. Alright, let's talk about Fox now, shall we? Fox Preston is a pretty cold person. He doesn't have a super expressive personality. He comes off as pretty monotone and somber. Of course, underneath he can be a lot more caring and jovial, but it takes a while for him to warm up to literally anyone. He guards himself a lot because that's how he was raised. He grew up in a very wealthy family with a very successful business. What that business is, I don't freaking know, but I do know that he works in a pretty high up position at his family's company. I will figure out what that company is. Hey, leave some suggestions below. Let me know. This isn't really the life he dreamed of, but it's not something he's opposed to. It's just what he was supposed to do since he was a child. Fox is the black sheep of his family. He's never fit in with them and generally keeps his distance. Fox is almost always tired. He has a very hard time sleeping and is constantly exhausted. I'm going to rewind just a little bit to his teen years when he also got his book. Winifred and Fox went to the same high school and were classmates. Fox wasn't necessarily a standout person in his school, but he had the respect of his peers because of his status, and Winifred always gravitated towards him because she did have a massive crush on him. He found her pretty annoying, but he found everyone annoying. Winifred is a hopeless romantic. She definitely had some unrealistic expectations of him or crazy fantasies. Winifred likes to talk a lot and Fox doesn't, but Fox is definitely a listener. He will listen to anything she says pretty intently and without getting bored, but he will present himself to not be that happy to engage. I think that Fox at that time in high school found everyone around him pretty ingenuous, but Winifred was a completely honest and straightforward person, and I think he really found that refreshing, even though he would never let her know that. Their dynamic in school was very, Winifred would say they were friends, and he would say that they are not. Fox has always struggled with his emotions and finding himself, or even being himself completely. And after he got his book, that freedom really got to his head. When he becomes Midas, he is outgoing, energetic, and he didn't have to worry about other people judging his behavior or his family finding out the stupid things he's doing. As an adult, he sees his position in his work as just a means to support his superhero lifestyle because he has the flexibility of a Nepo baby. He's easily able to slip out of his position whenever he wants without question. Fox doesn't yearn for the spotlight as much as Winifred does as Scarlet, but Midas does like to push her buttons about it, and I did change their dynamic as superheroes to be a little more interesting in my opinion. Winifred and Fox do reconnect after school, though it is kind of a fluke as they meet again at Winifred's minimum wage job at the mall, and they keep bumping into each other throughout. Their relationship does grow to the point that they are each other's best friends without them ever saying it or acknowledging that. This definitely reignites Winifred's crush on Fox, but she is a big coward and she would never reveal that to him, especially with her extremely big fear of rejection. Now, Scarlet, Shade, and Midas are actually now going to be low-key enemies. Scarlet likes to work by herself, and Midas is a free spirit who does whatever he wants, though he usually sways towards doing the right thing in any situation. But he definitely likes to go his own way about things. Winifred likes all the spotlight, and when Midas takes that spotlight by saving the day, she's not a big fan, and he just enjoys pushing her buttons. They definitely bicker and fight, but I think when they have to team up in certain situations, they work together better than both of them would like to admit. And also, Midas is secretly in love with Scarlet Shade since they were in high school. He is living in this unrequited love, and he's never been in another relationship because of this. And when I say he's never been in another relationship, all of it. He has no experience whatsoever. And I think this kind of concept is very fairy tale in how unrealistic it is, and how he commits himself to a woman who doesn't even know he loves her, and he will just continue to yearn and live in this unrequited hell. Midas's powers are pretty straightforward with the original story of King Midas and the Golden Touch. King Midas gets the Golden Touch and can turn anything into gold, and this pretty much ruins his life. I wanted to take that helplessness and make his powers not that controllable for him. He has the ability to freeze or shoot and freeze people. I'm thinking with a flick, I think that would be kind of cool. He can also conjure up golden items, but it's very limited because he can't consciously decide what he wants. It's more based on his instincts or what's on his mind at the time. I think this could also lead to some pretty funny, embarrassing moments for him because he can't control what he conjures up. So even though Fox is very calm and collected, Midas allows him to be a bit more rambunctious and also imperfect, since he does long for more spontaneity in his life. Guess that makes Winifred and him match each other's freak without even knowing it. Winifred is an open freak and Fox is a closeted freak. I like to imagine that Fox is very active in Scarlet Shade forums, and maybe they interact. I think that would be really cute and funny and also kind of weird. Look, they might not be the most healthy. They have a lot to work through, but in the end, I think it will be okay. These two are my most freaked out characters. I'm telling you that now. I love them so much, but they are freaky. They're one of the couples that I actually think would be really cute in their happy ending. I love this design so much more than the original. I love the shapes. He just looks more sleek, and I have more of a desire to draw him, that's for sure.
I'm shy. I overcome my shyness in order to get things done.
Now back up while I deal with this crook here. Really? I'm guessing you don't have much experience with heat. How exactly are you planning to stop this weather?
Now we are moving on to the new characters, and this one is one of my favorites I came up with. We will start with her civilian form. This character is named Rainy Hart, and she is a woman who knows what she wants, or so she thinks she does. I went back and forth on whether or not Rainy should be a classmate of Winifred's and Fox, and ultimately I decided against it since I think she would stand better on her own. Rainy was homeschooled as a kid, and her parents were very strict and rigorous with her schedule. She is a big academic and extremely smart. She met Winifred in their apartment building and would secretly meet up with her to hang out, even though her parents really did not like Winifred at all. Rainy definitely ran in high class circles, so her friends were all people she was supposed to be friends with, though she didn't exactly like them. She kind of pushes her feelings about that down because that is the place she's supposed to be, so she puts up a front that she is happy, and that is a running theme with her. She constantly has to hide her true self and constantly adapts to whoever is around her. She gets her book, and Rainy's book is Cinderella. Rainy is a good superhero. She is actually a fan favorite of the public even after the superheroes were not in favor anymore, but she is unlike a lot of the characters since she doesn't revolve her life around being a hero, and she is more of a part-time player, if that makes sense. She enjoys being her, it's just not her entire world. And I will talk more about her adult life in her superhero form. So let's move on to that form, shall we? This design is of course based on the story of Cinderella, and her superhero name is Midnight Strike. This design did make me struggle a little bit since I was trying to really avoid looking too much like Disney, but also a little Disney, just so it's a bit recognizable. I've settled for a purple, white, and silver color scheme, as well as a more strawberry blonde hair color. I don't think she really looks like Disney Cinderella, but it definitely feels like a reference to it. Also, you probably noticed now that I've done some ranking ability charts, and I did take this format directly from the Incredible DVD disc extra. I just love how much it showed about the characters without having to do a whole lot. I thought it was a nice touch, and I like that. Now, every superhero form is supposed to represent that character's best self, and in Rainy's mind, her best self is to have a perfect happy ending, to be a bride, to be a mother, and I think her design really reflects that. She is very soft-spoken, gentle, and graceful, and she is reinforced heavily because the public's reception to her is so positive. Midnight Strike's powers have a lot to do with glass. I like to imagine that she can create these really strong force fields. I took some inspiration from the fairy godmother in Shrek. I like her visuals a lot. She also can create glass sheets to slide on, and this can also make the enemy slip and fall. She is extremely powerful, but her powers are limited, and she is the most fragile out of everyone. I'm playing with that glass motif. Rainy in her adult life has gotten her happy ending. She has a husband, and she's planning on having children. She has a few things to be worked out. Her childhood best friend is living in her attic, and her husband does not like that, but she should be happy she got her ending, didn't she? Right? This is probably a good time to mention that Winifred and Rainy did reveal their secret identities to each other, and they're not really supposed to do stuff like this. Rainy is really by the book, but I think it's really important that they know about each other to support each other. She is college educated and could get a very good job, but her husband insists that she should just stay home and fulfill what she feels is her purpose as a mother. And Rainy does want to be a mother. she's just struggling with the feeling that something isn't quite right. Rainy, despite getting the perfect everything, feels completely hollow and extremely sad in her situation. She hides it from everyone, but inside she is really unhappy. She feels like she constantly has to keep it together though because of how she was brought up and how she handles things. She is one of the first people to retire her book and give up being a superhero completely because she feels that she has moved past it, and that because everything came true for her, that continuing being a superhero would just mean she was living in the past. She also wants to avoid a certain someone who overcomplicates things and throws a wrench in her big life plans, but we will talk about that character next. Here is Midnight Strike. I think she's pretty cool. She might need some tweaks, but pretty good overall for the concept. I like having a silver and a gold character. I think that's a cool visual.
I find your opinion of yourself entirely too high. Your character is as deficient as your horsemanship.
Oh, what fun you will all have. Getting to know each other all the better.
Was I truly that blind?
I am a grown woman now, ready to be a wife.
On to our next hero, Marne Carter, another one of the heroes, though she lives much farther away than the three I've talked about and has no connection with them civilian-wise. Marne is pretty shy and soft-spoken. She is extremely sweet and caring to others, but she does have a longing to be much more outgoing and personable with the people she is interacting with. Marne, as a teenager, was extremely scared to join any clubs, but she did long to be a part of a group and be athletic or be a leader of some sort. Mostly just take charge and control in her life. In her adult life, Marne became an elementary school teacher and really thrives in this environment since she does like kids a lot. I really love how her hair turned out. It's so cute. I almost went with just pink without the brown highlights, but I think the brown adds a lot. She kind of looks like an ice cream cone. Oh, she's so cute. She really does give the aura of an elementary school teacher, doesn't she? Like a really good one. Alright, now we will talk about her superhero form, and you might be wondering which book Marne got, and that book is Robin Hood. I don't want these books to be gender locked. Anybody can be anyone. Anyone can be Superman. I still haven't seen that movie. I should watch that. She is one of the most strikingly different between designs, and I don't think it has to do with self-identity struggles, more so her wanting to put on a strong persona for the public. And I think it's also to show that this character has many facets and isn't limited to one thing. Marnie's superhero alter ego is named Robin Rain, and her main purpose between identities is to help people and help people in need, which really fits the Robin Hood theme. Visually, I tried to go for a more pirate look, and I think that works for Robin Hood, but I felt that I couldn't omit a green color scheme. I think it's so integral to this character. Pretty much every depiction of him is green. I think as teenagers, Robin Rain and Midas have a pretty strong feud, which just plays into their original dynamics pretty well. Of course, the rogue bandit is going to hate the king and vice versa. Robin Rain's powers consist of weapon manipulation, mostly archery. They have the psychic ability to control where their weapon is going to hit. She is also extremely stealthy and can appear and disappear without anyone knowing where she went or where she is going. She's almost invisible, it's to that point. Robin Rain is very outgoing and outspoken. She is a prankster and she enjoys being very sly. Robin and Midnight Strike have a interesting connection since they met, even with their limited time together, since they can't be in superhero form all the time. They have a crazy connection. I think Robin Rain likes to take take the reins and try to save Midnight Strike as much as possible, since she should be the damsel in distress, though Midnight Strike doesn't really need saving. She takes it most of the time. Rainy constantly has to take care of people around her. She's made herself this caretaker whose only purpose is to fulfill the needs of others. It's rare that someone will go out of their way for her. So when Robin Rain does this, she is almost floored at how she can just unconditionally care about her in such a big way. I think Marne can really see Rainy's struggles, and she really genuinely just wants to help her, but she's pretty oblivious to her feelings until she isn't. Robin Rain has never felt this way about anyone, and Midnight Strike does feel the same way, but Rainy will never let herself feel those emotions as much as she already has, and she will never let that happen. So when things get a little too serious with them, Rainy does push her away, unfortunately, mostly because it just won't fit with her intentions. Robin is extremely confused by this and still longs for that connection again, which is still there. Rainy just won't engage as much. She is very much being avoidant. I don't have their dynamic that figured out yet, so if you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to know. Guys, they're not doomed. They will have a happy ending because everyone gets their happy ending, even if it seems that they won't. I do have some one-off little ideas too that I would like to share. I do have an idea of Rainy going to look for schools for her hypothetical children and going to Marnie's school to check it out, and their chemistry will be off the charts once again, but of course Rainy gets scared. But that interaction does plant way more seeds of doubt in her life. Marnie is also one of Fox's friends, IRL, but not really, since they don't know each other's identities still. They're just online friends that chat occasionally as their alter egos. After they broke up their feud as teenagers, they did become much closer friends, and I think that it's important for Fox to have some kind of connection with another superhero outside of Winifred, because he doesn't actually know she is one. Robin Rain is so Rainbow Dash coded, am I right? She's so slay.
But I do hope you'll come talk to me. It'd be nice to finally get to know each other. How lovely.
I'm not gay. What makes a woman hot is if I would have a lesbian encounter with her. And ladies and gentlemen, I would do this woman.
Now we are to our final character, and this character will be the most shrouded in mystery because his story requires more development on the villain, so I want to save that for another video, so forgive me if his is not as detailed. It will be eventually. This character is named Sunny Knox, and Sunny is another elementary school teacher who is co-workers and friends with Marne. Marne and Sunny do know each other's identities. They've been friends for a long time, going back to school days, so it made sense for their relationship to grow on that. Sunny is another character who doesn't rely on being a superhero to fill his fantasies or have it be his whole life. He's really just a chill guy who enjoys helping children and being a good teacher. He definitely takes the most joy from the simple things in life. He loves to garden, he loves to cook, he loves to sit outside. He touches grass, guys! He's the most solid character out of anyone in the group, and he's really had himself figured out since he was young. I think he really tries to mediate conflicts in any situation, especially in the superhero group. They all very much butt heads, but he tries to rein everyone in and get them to focus. It doesn't always work, but that's what he tries to do. The book that Sunny receives is Jack and the Beanstalk, and his superhero name is Summit. I love that name so much. Between Sunny and Summit's design, they are the most similar visually between each other, and I wanted to do that to show how confident he is in himself already. He's the closest to self-actualizing out of anyone, and he is extremely self-assured and happy in his life. Summit's powers are being able to grow into a giant at will, though the length that he is able to do this is limited since it takes a lot out of him. His other power is a sack of magic beans, which he can throw as basically bombs to erupt gigantic vines, either to defend himself or shield the group. It's pretty useful. He also has super strength, so he is the strongest physically out of any of the other superheroes. Now, like I said, Sunny and Summit are very self-assured, but I want the Torn and a particular villain of the Torn to really shake his world and his worldview, and he has to grapple with his feelings on that, but I don't want to share too much. You'll get that next time. Summit is also very by the book, and he really hated the idea of revealing his identity to his friend, and he hates that she communicates with Midas online. I imagine all of the books have a very strict rule list that you must follow. Now, these rules are kind of built to be broken in the end, so I guess it really didn't matter, but it's really hammered in the universe. They should abide by these structures. He is also another character that really considers retiring his book, but keeps it on hand just in case it's needed. I'm so excited for all of these characters, and I can't wait to share them all with you because, oh my gosh, this has taken so freaking long, man. I'm so sorry. This should have been out a while ago. Whoopsies.
He's a fool. There's going to be an opportunity. Just be patient.
Do you smell that? That little chicken timer offers more help than you can imagine. Only a human who doesn't understand cooking would ask that. Cooking is life!
In conclusion, Your Honor, I am obsessed. I rest my case. I also want to say I love your guys' fan art when I see it on Instagram or TikTok, and even if I don't comment on it, just know I probably saw it. I'm just scatterbrained and I forget to interact with posts. It's a flaw in me. I also want to say that I do have a name for the story. I never have names for my universes, but I did come up with one and I really love it. This universe will be named Titlebound. Yes. Every character struggles a little bit with identity, and I think having characters that struggle with self and putting them into a situation that requires them to become a walking personification of a story is really interesting, and I think the title reflects that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know this was a very long time coming, and I don't know if anyone cares about this story, but I really wanted to make this video, so I'm glad that I did. If you guys have any suggestions on what I should do for another video, I'd love to know in the comments below, and let me know which character is your favorite and what other storybooks you would like to see as superheroes. I'm very curious. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and as always, peace.